So I did promise that I would do a recap video, an MMA recap video, which I don't usually do, on the three events that happened this past week. We had two UFNs going on in the middle of the weeks, and then we had a proper UFC event, numbered event at the weekend. Now, I'm going to start with the UFC fight night, and this was 27, I believe. It was headlined by Carlos Condit and Martin Kampmann. I may not have done so well on my predictions here, but I did get the Condit-Kampmann fight down to a T. I was quite surprised at a few of the outcomes, including Rafael Dos Anjos and Kelvin Gastelum, who proved that actually he wasn't a fluke or anything like that, but actually somebody to be aware of. Do you know, I thought that it was a very good card. I think there were some close decisions, but I'm going to go and say that my fighter of the card for that event was actually Zach Cummings. So well done to him. If we zip forward a week, we get to the Ultimate Fight Night 28, which is what I'm going to talk about next. Personally, I don't think that Glover Teixeira has warranted his title shot. I think he's one that they have enjoyed fast-tracking, and I don't think it's going to get him anywhere in the long run. However, it did get him somewhere against Ryan Bader, as I think I predicted there. The surprise of the night here, for me, was Ronaldo Souza. Not because he won, because I predicted that, but because of the way he won, which is why I'm giving him my Fighter of the Card award. He's known for being exceptional on the ground, and he was facing a decent striker in Yushin Okami, and he got a finish on the feet. So that, I feel, definitely warrants the fight of the night there. There wasn't many other surprises for me, although I'm not sure I did very well with my predictions here. There were a few decisions. I was a bit disappointed in the Yuri Villafort split decision, but other than that, the only other thing to mention was Junior Hernandez, who lost. Now, I actually like Junior Hernandez very much indeed. I find him a very sound individual, and I'm quite, not disappointed, but I'm quite, I find it quite unfortunate that he lost. He did manage to show a lot of heart, and people actually said that at the time, to which of course he replied, yes, but I do have a lot of skill as well. And I'm sure he does, and I do hope that we get to see that on the UFC, that they allow him, you know, to continue to compete, and that we get to see that skill next time. It may come as no surprise to anybody that the fighter of the card, I've decided, is going to be Anthony Pettis. I have spoken at length in the last 2 years about my feelings on what happened with Anthony Pettis concerning the promise that Dana White made on the closure of WEC. I know that there's a lot of people who say that, you know, the administration of the UFC did absolutely nothing wrong because the fight between Edgar and Gray Maynard was a draw. The problem with that is that at title level, a draw is not a win. It's not a win for the contender. The reason this is the case is twofold. First, if it was a win, then they would be co-champions. They would both be, technically speaking, champion of the division, and that doesn't happen. Secondly, something that people often forget is that the belts that are played for at every new championship match are completely new belts. Okay, the belt is not a singular belt which is passed on from one person to the next. When you win the title and you win the belt, that belt is yours for life. Okay, that means, technically speaking, at the start of every new championship, there is a vacant belt waiting to be given to one or other of the opponents. Now, in the case of a draw, if both were winners, then there would either be two belts and they'd both have to have two belts, or it would have to be basically a sort of no contest where the championship belt wasn't given to anybody. Now, that's not the case. Regardless of what it says on record, in the case of a draw at championship level, the reigning champion gets the new belt. That, therefore, is, technically speaking, a win for him and a loss for the contender. You know, a miss is as good as a mile. It's just not quite good enough. If you don't come away with the belt, regardless of how it happens, you've lost, and you know that. Now, Anthony Pettis was promised to take on the champion following that match. The champion remained Frankie Edgar, regardless of what people say, regardless of them saying it was a draw. He ended up with the belt. He walked away with the belt. He is still the champion. And rather than letting Anthony Pettis contend there and then, as had been promised prior to the match, they moved straight for a rematch. And the problem with that was that left Anthony Pettis high and dry. He was in a no-win situation because he either waits, in which case he goes rusty, and the longer he waits, the less likely it is he'll be able to win when he gets to actually contend. He shouldn't have to wait. The other issue is that if he continues to fight as he's waiting and he loses, he'll obviously forfeit his right to do so, right to contend at all. And that's basically what happened. Although I have to say that Clay Guida, retribution was paid to Clay Guida for his horrible wrestling style in the match that cost Pettis any hope of the championship 2 years ago. On the same card, he got absolutely smushed, and it serves him right. Now, the total irony of everything is that Benson Henderson, who Pettis had just finished in the WEC, got to the UFC championship first, and so finally this was an ironic sort of rematch, if you like. It worked out nicely, I suppose, for the UFC in that respect. A lot of people didn't see Pettis winning in the first round by armbar, I have to say. Even I, in my prediction video, said I thought it would be basically a rerun of the WEC match where it would go to decision and he'd get given the decision. But no, he took it. And as far as I'm concerned, it's vindication for him. But there's also a wider application to the whole sport, because quite often when the UFC make these promises, which they should just quit doing, because it ends them up in more problems. You know, if they'd never promised it in the first place, nobody would be complaining. But they make these promises, they treat people unfairly by fast-tracking other people, and when they sideswipe a fighter who is at their prime and who has an opportunity taken away from them, 9 out of 10 times they never recover, okay? They never get back to where they were. Now, Pettis has gone a good 2 years since that point, and he's actually managed, on his own merit, to climb all the way back up and get to the position where he's still in his prime enough to manage to do what should have been his 2 years ago. That's a success story, and that is a good day for the sport, because this is a fighter who has overcome not only the normal aspect of getting that high, but also having been beaten down by the administration, getting back up and actually getting to the title before his career runs out. And in the world of MMA, that can be 5 years, a 5-year block of being at your prime, with possibly a 5-year going up and a 5-year going down. And 2 of those years have hung in the balance between when the promise was broken and when he was finally vindicated. So I think it's a good day for the sport, a brilliant day for Anthony Pettis, and an outy day for Clay Guida, Benson Henderson and Dana White.